Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden, and this is the Eve Universe Show. This is my last guaranteed show of the year, and it's already going to be kind of a shorter one. So, good to see you guys. Come on in, have a seat. I'm going to start out by calling you guys out, though. There is currently just around 20 people watching, but only 4 likes. 4 likes. I gotta play the game, so do you. Let's pump up those numbers. There we go. Now I'm a real YouTuber. All right. So yesterday we did the new event, or the Winter Nexus. We completed the entire track as a with a paladin. I actually did it later that night with a. There you go. That's what I'm talking about, guys. We did it. I did it last night with a golem. That was pretty successful. And I've seen it, or I did it with a Vindicator earlier yesterday. That was pretty successful. So there's a lot of good options for the combat sites. However, there is an expert system that is coming with the login rewards. If you're watching this live, it should be tomorrow if you've been logging in every day. So tomorrow, even alphas will be getting this expert system. This expert system will let you fly an Endurance, okay? The Endurance is the Tech 2 mining frigate, specifically good at mining ice. So the idea is that even if you're having difficulty finishing the track because of, like marauders running around chasing you out of sites or whatever, and data sites, you don't feel like doing the hacking game, this is a good, clean way to just, easily grind up your points. We're going to check it out today. We're going to be flying around in one of these Endurances. And actually, funny story, I have no recollection of this ship whatsoever. And I have no recollection of even playing around with this. I don't remember if I got around to even playing around with this or experimenting with it. But I have this Endurance that is named Blitzen. So it's clearly for the event. And it's designed to have both ice mining capabilities, probing, and data analyzer. So I think it would seem that my plan was to go out with this ship and do both the data sites and the ice mining sites. So we're going to do a 2-for-1 and see whether or not I can continue, or how far into the track I can get in the next couple of hours doing mining and hacking with this setup. I believe it is alpha friendly. You get the ice mining upgrades 4 as part of the expert system. You might end up with a Tech 1 Ice Harvester. But beyond that, you should be good to go. Oh, you might need a Tech 1 range fighting array. Whatever, cool. So let's make sure we've got our snowballs loaded in, but we also need probes. There is one little complication. Well, there's a couple complications. But one of them is, I think I'm being camped. So there's going to be, I wanted to try to do this before the stream, but then I thought it was hilarious, so I would try to do it on stream. Last time I checked, when I showed up here about 10-15 minutes ago, there was a ton of Eden Calm outside. So this journey might end up being, I have to use the Tech 1 mining hacking module too? Sure, whatever. The point is, I may not make it out of the gate. We'll see. Do I have a cloak at least? I do not. Excellent. We're going to be doing this in high sec today, just for the low pressure style of it, but obviously, oh, thank God. Woof. I didn't want to find out how good my Insta undock idea was to this Poco. Alrighty. I guess we could just go to, well, let's look at where the storms are. Looks like still this whole area. Hmm. Let's just do that. I need to clean up my channels that I'm in. Makes it hard to collapse the window. We also might do a little bit of toying around with the overview with my overview setup. With the, I'm trying to figure out what all tabs I want in my main area. You had so much fun doing nullsec filaments to Explo last night. You know, that was actually my idea. That was the other thing I was thinking about, which is grabbing a nullsec Explo filament, reindeer filament, and going out there, because my assumption is that the low sec are going to be the ones that are hunted and farmed. The high sec ones are going to be quote unquote not worth it and hyper farmed. But the null sec ones are probably going to be that sweet spot, right? Like often you don't actually want to do the thing that everybody's doing, right? Wait a minute. What, is this new? Are these security command centers new? I don't even know. Now that I've got beacons as a separate thing, I'm going to be saying that a lot, I think. Yeah. Oh, that was better than the few sites that you ran on low sec. I think that's just random is random, personally. People let you, yeah. You know, when I did ratting in low sec and null sec and stuff like that, if I knew that the person was if I could identify that the person was 100% an explorer, I usually didn't care. Oh, those, yeah, but those have been there for a few months. That still classifies as new. I meant like part of the overall new construction, as opposed to, you know, a beacon that's been there for like 10 years or something like that, or more. Because like there's been a lot, guys, for those of you who don't know, there's been a lot of random construction in the world. Oh, before we jump into this whole thing, I do have one piece of news that I want to go over, or one small thing and one bigger thing of news that I want to go over before we jump too deep into the mining sites. So while we're still one jump off, I think that we will jump into that coverage first. Jump. All right, so a couple things. First of all, the real quick, because we touched on this. By the way, I feel like it's important to note that CCP doesn't provide me anything. I go over these like deals and stuff because I think it's just another thing for people to know about. But we talked about the skins and stuff. It's now available. The packs are. They weren't available yesterday. So for $100, you can get the Orthrus Phantasm and a Shimu. And then you can look at the different packs. So the $519 pack comes with 6 of the. I'm hesitant to even click by now. Oh God, no. Is there? How do I find view other offers? How do I see what skins are from where? Somebody pointed out that there is a way to do it. I thought. I don't know. Bah. The short of it is, right now you can get the Winter Lumine skins basically only through these ISK packages, or these Plex packages. And they're not even really very well communicated. And the deal made it sound like you'd be able to get the 3 for the 1,000 Plex, but no, it starts at 1,000 Plex. So I ain't gonna lie, I feel like CCP vastly overestimates the value of these Lumine Polaris skins as far as like how cool they are. Either way, I digress. That's what's live now. This is what I wanted to talk to you about. This is a new website that CCP has put. You need to click buy to see what skins? All right, fine. I'll go check it out first. Just for thoroughness. Nope. Oh my God, it has credit information. Jesus, no. Fuck CCP. All right. All right. Well, that was a failure. I don't think I'm going to show that stuff off anymore. At any rate, front lines. God damn it. I'm just going to make a little note to edit that part. Anywho, so what I wanted to show is there is a new Eden War report. This is a brand new website, web tool that is available. Yes, I understand. It's not your fault at all. But this gives you a report of everything that's going on in the faction war zone. In a lot of ways, this reminds me of our the Aderon.org faction warfare map. Actually, give me 1 second. Aderon.org/FW/map. This is our version of it. Now, we keep track of the war zone, and we're tracking like gains and losses over time. So this has a little bit different information than what's available here. But this website actually has stuff on that is not available directly to us via the API. So this is a pretty cool website. There's the four different factions, and you can see kind of where they're at. So the Amar have 32 systems, the Mimitar have 38, the Galente have 32, and the Caldari have 58. So it's pretty easy to tell that there are now 20 more systems in the Galente Caldari system side than on the Amar Mimitar side, which is pretty significant because it used to be that there's double. So that's the two constellations that Celis Agard took off the map. There's also this new YouTube video. Let me double check to make sure audio is coming through, which it's not. So here we go. I really like this video. I think this was really well done. I know a lot of people have been having confusion about the advantage system. That's a bit confusing because, so this is the only criticism I have, is that this advantage system, like there's more confusion about the advantage system than anything else in the game right now, in the faction warfare system. So, like, I'm glad that they kind of explained a little bit of it, although it would have been nice to even give it an extra beat of information to let you know kind of a little bit more about what's going on. But to then immediately transition over to the rewards without having, like, a clear break, it feels like I want to know more here. So then when it comes to this, it feels like this should be involved in this. So this actually feels like it's saying the rewards are for the propaganda, the doing the propaganda stuff when it's actually not so much. I mean, there is some, but that's more for the capturing of sites and stuff. I think that one of the problems is that it just says give your faction an edge, but we don't have any understanding, according to these videos, of how that edge actually plays out. And I don't know if that's because CCP is interested in potentially like keeping it open for that to be changed significantly. You know, what an edge is. Maybe what we have right now is only the current manifestation of what an edge might be, but they are willing to explore or look at other options. Or maybe it's just something that needs to be defined better. You know, be like, and the issue is that it is one of the things that's like also one of the more technically under the hood of all of the mechanics of faction warfare, and the part that changed significantly. It's the new introduction. So dealing with the advantage system, maybe a whole separate video quickly on the advantage system would be really good. Either way, what I really like is if you go here, you can go to the view the report and you can see all of the systems. And oh, maybe it's doing it because of formatting. Hold on, let me try this. Yes. Apparently, like, so when it's narrow, it thinks it's a mobile view. So here's the full screen view. And you can see, like, I can see the whole map. It's live. And I can click on any given system and see it. This is basically the exact same information that's in the Faction Warfare menu in-game. And this is all very accurate. This uses an API that we don't even have access to yet, or possibly will ever get access to. But what this does is it lets people... This I really like. This is something that EVE Online has missed in the past. You know, I've said we need to have like an armory type thing. The idea that like I can pull up something out of game to show somebody an idea of things. Like I could show somebody who doesn't play EVE this map and use it to be like, oh yeah, I'm a super turbo nerd and we play this territorial warfare thing. So we're green and we live here and we're trying to currently defend our territory here and here. Like that is something that is totally understandable without actually understanding EVE Online. And I think that's absolutely critical for bringing people in. So I really like this website for that reason, if nothing else. Yeah. And then, of course, there's the rest of the EVE Academy website. I do hope that they link this like from the agency or whatever. The map looks really good, though. Oh, hold on. Is it just me, or is Ash today more quiet than usual? Let me double check. Hello? Test 1, 2, 3. Is this better? Is this better? It's possible that I'm used to like looking in that direction and now I'm having to look this direction a lot. So if I end up blowing things out, let me know. Okay. But yeah, that's all I kind of wanted to show about this. This is a really cool website. And more importantly, I think it's it shows that CCP are continuing to go down this road, right? Like this Faction Warfare release isn't going to be just like a release and then they're done. They're clearly coming out with more and more support. This is building up towards something, right? A lot of the times when they release a new feature or even an update, it feels like it's front loaded, right? Like the really good part of it is right there and then it kind of decays off over time. But, you know, CCP has continued to demonstrate their new commitment to this play style and like kind of using it as a way of kind of moving the ball forward. And just as a by the way, this actually reminds me, I had an echo the other day from 2019, I think it was. It was when CCP was talking about the first 30 days. You know, when they were the new player experience, I guess, you know what I mean? Like when they were talking about when they were getting past the retention issue and they were trying to say like, okay, well, people they did the first 3 days, the first 3 hours, the first 3 weeks or whatever, I think it was the way that they started the whole renewal of things back in like 2019. So I remember talking to CCP Hilmar, and um, I stressed the idea that faction warfare is a new player thing, and therefore should be considered in the list of stuff when they're talking about these very early things that people should do. That fact, like, because I always thought that they would get into that after Ascension, but then they missed that completely. And I felt like CCP was missing the whole point about how well faction warfare would work at being the place for new players to kind of be sent to as a way of being drawn into it. Um, so I argued that point with him, and he said that he agreed with me. However, he saw that as being, as he put it, around day 29, which means it would be the end of the 30-day window, right? So if you think about it, for the last 3 years, they've been thinking about all of the things that a player will experience and deal with within the first 30 days. And the faction warfare represents one of the major culminations of that journey, that a person should experience a pretty clean, well-designed, well-navigatable, a learnable through play game, up to and including being able to get into faction warfare. And then from there, if they haven't already, they can spin off into all kinds of other things. And I think that this is a really great idea. And I think that it really shows how much, while we like to give credit, or like while we would like to disparage CCP as like being completely chaotic and random or whatever during scarcity and all that stuff, in a lot of ways, from top to bottom, there is very clear indications that at least on the top level, CCP had a very good idea of what they were going to do during that period of time. They may not have realized that it was going to take them 3 years to do it, but I could clearly see a plan forming in 2019, and a lot of that plan has now been cultivating and now culminating in Uprising. So yeah, I think I'm conveying that because I want to explain why I don't feel like this is a flash in the pan. I feel like this has been the point for quite some time, right? So if you're excited about what's been going on with Uprising, I feel like this is more of the beginning than the end. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. Either way, let's go ahead and jump into today's main event. Hey, Drake. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also, I don't know whether or not I'm going to be able to stream at all through the end of the year, but I do have a video that I really, really want to get done that is called Why You Should Play EVE Online in 2023. So I'm pretty excited to work on that. I've got my points already written out and stuff. But that's a video that I kind of want really tight editing and lots of nice visuals for, so I'm probably not going to do it live. All right. Let's get back to our main event. So, once again, we have this endurance. It has a mining laser, a sister core probe launcher, festival launcher. Now, the sister core probe launcher is going to be kind of important because the sites are kind of difficult to hack to scan down. So I need as much help as possible, given the fact that this ship is not bonused for it. Okay. Then I have a micro warp drive. All of these modules, if you can't fit them as an alpha, you can always kind of downgrade them or get them to a faction, right? So a micro warp drive could easily be either compact or restrained, depending on which one you need. The data analyzer, obviously, you'll need a Tech 1 or a faction. Scan range finding array, you might need to have a faction or a downgraded one of that. This is already meta. And then I think that you're going to have the ability to have these ice mining upgrades with just the expert system that everybody gets as part of the event. And then low friction nozzle joints, just for extra agility, and gravity capacitor upgrade for increased scanning. So once again, the goal today is I'm going to go into the storm and I'm going to hack sites and I'm going to mine, and I'm going to see how many points I can get just in high sec doing that kind of stuff. Obviously, you can kind of do the same stuff in low sec, but just for the purposes of demonstration, we're going to try to see what we can do in high sec. Yeah, so the stream has been going on for 30 minutes. One of the things I really like about switching over to YouTube is that you actually can rewind and go see if there's anything that you've missed, even during a live stream. Also, if you've missed a stream, when I post, like, my stream is going live, there's no longer a separate link for the VOD, right? Like, sometimes we'll come out with highlights and stuff, but, like, literally, you can just click on the same link of the video or just go to my live broadcasts. I keep them public. So you can go check out the YouTube video if you miss it. So if you can't catch them live, you can always catch the whole experience as an archive. We still come out with highlights and stuff, or like we knock out the segments as an individual thing. Okay, so we have an ice field. So let's go ahead and check that out first. Yeah, I think that the YouTube has just been great. So the reason why we're going with an endurance is that the idea is that everybody's going to get the expert system to be able to do the endurance on day 3, which is tomorrow for most people if you've been logging in since the beginning. So the idea is that I'm trying to find a way for alphas or new players to complete the track if they're unable to compete or they're getting frustrated with doing combat sites against like marauders and stuff. So here we are in the site. There's there's asteroids there, and then there's this orca there, right? So we need to go get the rocks. I have a range of 8 kilometers. That sucks. How many do I need? I think somebody said I need 7 blocks. I don't know how long that takes. I guess that would be 7 minutes. Is that true? Let's see what my ore hold is, my mining hold. 19,000? I guess that's true. Now we play the waiting game, I suppose. Yes, this is the new winter event. You know, it's funny. It is normally the best seasonal event, ISK-wise. But this year, at least in high sec, I've not found that to necessarily be true. Partially because the last few events have actually been really good as far as rewards go. Crimson Harvest was insane if you actually were looting the clones. But in contrast, this is like half as much as I would have expected, probably. But the low sec and null sec sites still are pretty good. Oh, I see. Yeah. So I have a oh, let's just finish this, by the way. People were contacting me yesterday, terrified that I'm going to now just not redeem everything after completing them. I kind of made a joke about it, and then people were like, "No, really, we were afraid that you were going to do that." So here, I'll just I'll do this for everybody else's sake. Do I think that they nerfed it? Yeah, I think that it seems like there's less jackpots. Most sites were giving me like somewhere between 5 to 10 million. However, the thing about the Crimson the winter event is also the fact that you can complete the sites so quickly that it's kind of hard to scale it, because it's like you kind of like I found a system last night with 12 sites. So I literally just ground the sites for like almost an hour because they kept on respawning. So I made some pretty decent money in that time, just because of the sheer quantity. But the problem is that like under normal conditions, I would make like a billion ISK completing or more completing the track. And this year, I probably only made like 300 to 400 million ISK completing the track. Oh my gosh, are you serious? Of course, the ice ran out. Why wouldn't an ice block run out? I thought they didn't do that. Somebody lied to me about ice mining. Although one of our guys who likes to do events with us a lot, he went in and his first site last night, he got 125 million ISK faction drop, and I was just like, I wouldn't get used to that if I were you. And then the rest of the night, he's like, I got jabronied, man. I got tricked. You're above 2 billion in loot with 3.6k points. But that's my point. Like, you gain points so fast compared to the amount of loot that you make in that same amount of time that I completed the track while making a lot less money total. But I think that has more to do with how mad I am at these ice. Is it done? Did the site just finish or something? What's happening? There's no more rocks. You've got to be kidding me. All right, well, let's go turn in. If we can. First combat site you ever did, it got a sentient drone drop. I've gotten crap loot. It reminds me of my first 6 of 10 I ever got. Oh my god, I do need 7. You've got to be kidding me. Also, this stuff does not go on this tab. Well, all right. Let's go ahead and go to Pakshi, shall we? Yeah. I get it, Spoons. Thanks. Oh shoot! I should have scanned. I should have been. That's what I do. Okay, so I set up myself in. Look at how many forward bases are here. So I set myself up in the site, and then I scan down the signatures. Is it an unwritten rule that if you jump into the combat site events that there's somebody already there that you leave them to it? No, competing like is a very big thing. Racing is a very big thing. The thing is that racing is actually not as common in this event because the sites are so fast and so frequent. But especially in other events where the sites are a little bit harder to find, you will see racing quite a bit. Or contesting, as you call it, as some people call it. The price on everything on market went up and the loot from events went down. Yes, that's how events work. That's part of the whole thing about, like, if you pay attention to how events, like the flow of events, you can capitalize on that fact by, you know, putting up for sale the things that you know are going to be used the night before for like a markup, and make sure to get your stuff early so that way you don't have to buy it at the markup. So check this out. This is one of the things I really like to do. If you right-click on your hold, you can go to Track and Hold Bay and switch it to which one you want. So I'm going to switch it to my mining hold. So now it'll show me what how full my mining hold is. Or at least it should. And also, I can go here to configure ship alert settings and set my cargo threshold to about 28%. And now it'll warn me when my cargo gets pretty full. It'll basically warn me when my cargo's 70% full. All right, so now, are there signatures to scan down? There absolutely are. Hey, Ardenika, how's it going? You only contest people that contest before. Yeah, the thing is that if somebody contests you, like I find that you got to beat them. You got to show them that they can't just shadow you forever. You know. I would say that it is a dick move. I had some people last night contesting me when there are other unopened sites in system. Now, some people might not be able to figure out. Like there might be some people that don't know how to tell an unopened site. Um, but the secret there is if it's on your if it's in your probe scanner, but it's not on your overview, and you can check because of matching, the matching signature or like distance, right? And it rounds up, so it'll be like 3.18 AU on the on your scanner or whatever. But sorry, it'll be on your distance map. It'll be like 3.1 AU. On one, it'll be 3.18, and then on the other, it'll be 3.2 because of the way that rounding works. But yeah, the way more or less, you can pretty much figure out which site is which. And then from there, you can figure out which site is open and which sites are not open. You just want to find a site that is at a distance. What? Why did I keep going? What even happened there? Try not to. Yeah. All right. Cool. Let's go. Now the sites themselves, especially the high-sec ones, should be pretty easy, I think. Although I don't have a bonus hacker, so I'm gonna have to be a little bit careful, I guess. And if you're using only a Tech 1 module, you have to be a little bit more careful. I assume that you get multiple tries if you want. That's a pretty good first go, though. Oh, I could have hit it with a snowball, too. So if a site is not on overview, nobody is there. Yes. So basically, a site shows up on the probe scanner first, but it doesn't show up on the overview until somebody tries to warp to it. So you'll actually see it spawn on the overview. This happens in Faction Warfare too. So this is how like I can tell the moment you actually warp to or begin warping to a site, because as soon as you initiate warp, it pops up on the overview as a beacon. So now you can actually warp to the site and then cancel the warp, and it still makes it pop up. So it doesn't guarantee that the person's warping will actually land at the place, but it does mean that somebody has tried to warp to it. Or in other words, if you find a site that isn't on the overview but is on the probe window, then that means that it has not been warped to by anybody. It's a completely virgin site. And then likewise, if you see a site that is on the overview but not on the probe window, that means that site is finished and hasn't finished, but just simply hasn't despawned yet. Yeah. This was actually a big thing in invasions too, because one, we would pay attention to the site. You didn't want to run into somebody else that was running on a site and step on them, but also with the major conduits, the tier 2 sites, there was like an animation effectively there's an event that starts the site where the holes open one at a time with different waves that spawn. So the idea is that you would go in there and you would kill them as they come out and kind of keep up. But if you couldn't keep up, then they would overwhelm you. Well, people would actually warp to it and then warp off just enough to trigger it. So that way, when you came to go do it, the site was already it had gone through its entire animation, and therefore you had to fight everything all at once. Which then, on top of that, you could get a warp in or two. And if you got 2 warp-ins and a pre-spawn, that is when the sites got deadly, and it really didn't matter who you were or how prepared you were. It was more about getting the hell off grid before battleships started just exploding. Yeah, so far these hacking sites have gone pretty good. Other than the winter event, have you missed anything important? There's the new Faction Warfare map. I showed it off earlier today, or new Faction Warfare website. There's new logos and everything from Paragon. And the login event comes with a bunch of Paragon points. In other words, I guess the short of it is no. Nothing critical. Oh, there's multiple overviews now. You can have multiple overviews now. Is it a mechanic for non-faction warfare sites? It's a mechanic for a lot of different sites that are anomalies like that. Like, some anomalies will always be there. Basically, if an anomaly, that's what it is. If an anomaly will have a beacon in space, that beacon will appear after somebody warps to that anomaly. How about that? So some anomalies can be seen on the overview, but those anomalies, I believe, only appear, like, exclusively only appear when somebody's already warped to it. So if an anomaly will show up, then it won't show up until somebody's warped to it. That feels like the correct answer. Yeah, all event sites work that way. I'm pretty sure that's correct. I always hesitate to say all or never. So, you know, standard caveats apply. But yeah, that's pretty true. Can you explain hacking as you do them, please? A couple? Sure. I have other videos where I've gone into that, but we can talk about that some. One of the things... Okay, so this is a ring. I love rings. We'll talk about it more. But when it comes to a ring or an echo, what you'll find is there's a lot of the scanning area that is well within your probe area, which means if that zone was eligible for a ring, or if it was there, then you wouldn't have gotten a ring. You would have just gotten a hit. So usually it's like towards the edge of the ring or towards the furthest echo from the center of your probes where the thing's location is. Well, now I've got to wait for the rest of this cycle. Oh, that's a Blood Raider data site. Okay, never mind. Have I... Oh, I've already gotten 7 pieces. So now I've got to go turn in the thing and get the salvage package. Okay, great. So, ore faded field. These beacons don't need to be here. Claim reward. Great. So now I go mine more ice, right? Nope, I have to mine site. So now I've got one that says mining site entered again. But I think there's a trick to that, which is I'm going to just warp to the sun and then warp back to this one. So this is RSY tax 72. How do you move your HUD around like caps and modules? Yeah, I'll show you. Uh-oh. Yeah, there it is. So now when I rewarp to the sun, wow, this sun is really pretty. It's an orange. Orange what? Orange radiant. That's cool. And look, I got credit again. So you don't actually have to find a new mining site. You just have to like warp away and warp back to it. Yeah. So the slots, you can drag them, and the top row is F1 through F8. The second row is Alt F1 through F8. Which, speaking of which, Alt F4 does not crash or close your game in Eve unless you're doing the Eve Anywhere client. And then the bottom row is Control F1 through F8. And now that I've scanned this area, if I don't leave the system, I mean, I can see anytime a new signature pops up. So I can instantly just have my probes out and start scanning it down. So I started today with like 940 points, I think it was. And so I've gotten at least 60 or so points, I want to say. Today, which is pretty decent given the fact that I've done nothing, basically. Oh, I got another one for hitting somebody with snowballs. What's next? Oh, I gotta hit the ice processor. Is that? Yep, that's that. Okay, well, when I go turn in the ice, I'll go do that. So yeah, while the combat sites felt like more of a grind, this feels more like an activity, right? Like I gotta do the little things, which I really like. How it's on the top and not the bottom? Oh, right. Ironically, or not, fun fact, I do this because of the fact that it allows me to, or it gets people to ask that exact question. So in the lower right-hand corner of your HUD is this little cheeseburger menu. If you click on that, you can hide your passive modules. You can hide your empty slots. You should have your display readout. I think that's a good one. You want to have your sensor overlay probably visible. But you can also HUD align to the top. And always above full screen views. There we go. That's useful. So check this out. This is actually one of the things I really like. Now I can hit F10. And look, I have my locked targets. I have my modules. I have all of the things I need for tactical awareness while I am looking at the map. Whereas if the map was not full screen, then it would actually like cover things up. So I used to not be a full screen fan, but now I'm a big full screen fan. Now that we have this ability to make sure that things stay on top. Low sec is significantly more worth it. On the order of like 10 to 100 times more. I never used full screen either until I discovered that. The one thing I don't like is that full screen maximizes my chat window. But yeah, this is how yesterday I was able to check out what sites were open, right? Because I'm able to go here and it go like name, right? So I go here, set it to distance 2.7. This site is open. 3.2, that's that one. That one's open. 3.54, that one's open. 3.1 is already finished. 3.95, that one's that one. 3.58 is that one. That one. 4.8 is already done. 5.8 is already done. 6.36 is this 6.4. So all of the sites right now currently active are finished or being run. Also, keyboard shortcuts don't work. You know, I think I noticed that. Let's find out. So if I hit F2. No, they didn't work yesterday because I didn't have my HUD on above everything else. Now that my HUD is always on top, when I hit a hotkey, it worked. Unless you're focused on another area. Yeah, that's why I actually strongly recommend you move your D-scan key to your spacebar. Not only will that make it easier to hit, but it makes it so that spacebar no longer selects your chat window as your active target. Because if you do that and then do other hotkeys, those will just be ignored too. So I don't like to accidentally hit the spacebar and cause everything to get ruined. So I rebind the spacebar to D-scan. Yes, this is volatile ice. It's only in these event sites. But if I move it to spacebar, will I use to jump? That's D. But also, I prefer radial menu up personally as my interaction button, as a gesture. The big thing about radial is that you need to realize that it's not a button per se. It's not multiple actions. Like I right click on something and then go to like warp to. It's one gesture. I'm already doing the thing before it even opens up, right? Like I can just go radial up and then release, and it just works without any further input, right? Oof, almost actually warped. And it also means that the interaction, like this, radial menu up is always interact. Radial menu to the top left is always warp to or align to. Sorry, warp to with bottom left, align to. Bottom right, keep it range. Can I not keep it range? Orbit. And the further outside of the ring you go, when it comes to keep it range and orbit and warp to, the further the distance. Ah, oh, boo! Loads of ice exchanged. Oh, now I've got to turn in more than one ice. Okay. How many do I have so far? I have 8. So I might as well just keep on mining for now. You want radial menu in the probe scanner? I know, right? What is the minimum ship you think can run the low-set combat sites with? So I cannot stress enough how much these sites are designed to be ran with its team. More true in low sec. So I'll say that like Apraxis, like the site itself is not much more difficult than the current, than the high sec site. It's just more like there's 3 waves instead of 1 to keep you in there longer. It makes it take longer. However, if you've got like 3 or 4 people in battle cruisers, like that is, you can probably pay for that entire fleet in the same amount that it costs for your one ship to solo it. And that fleet is significantly more spooky than your one ship. That was weird that it made the sound of no contacts, but yet it gave me a ring. Oh yeah, you can radial from the okay, yeah, that is confusing. I don't know what just happened. You can radial from the actual map itself, which is pretty wild, actually. Okay, I don't know what the hell's going on, so let's just go ahead and start over. CO running event fleets? That's the... I mean, I assume so. I'm not actively forming any fleets yet myself that I've scheduled or whatever. But, like, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of us. And usually there are people that put these things together. I think yesterday everybody was kind of dinking around the high-sec stuff. Usually after a day or two, we start doing the low-sec ones. Especially, you know, once we get the filaments... How does it determine who gets the wreck? Top damage. The best way to find out that somebody doesn't know what they're talking about is that they say that it's last hit. That's like the clearest indication that somebody doesn't know what they're doing. And by the way, it is top individual damage. So you can have a fleet of people, but if one dude comes in and does more damage than any one of your individual fleet members... Oh my god, stop calling me in the middle of my streams. Oh, it's my dad. Shoot. Hold on. My dad's like, are you available to talk right now? I'm like, I'm live. He's like, all right, I'll talk to you later. White Storm comms relay almost finished scanning. That's right. Okay. I gotta say, I'm making almost as much money doing the hacking sites as I was doing in the combat sites. I don't know if that's a bad sign or not. Also, these hacking sites are, like, popping up like crazy. Boom. I did my first 3 of 10 escalation last time. Took you almost 30 minutes. Well, it sounds like you had fun, though. Did you get anything good? The thing is that when it's time to do your first site, I'd say that it's more the experience than the value of the actual site itself, if that makes sense. If you get a jackpot, then all the better, but I think that people definitely need to give themselves an opportunity to learn a level or a piece of content. And more importantly, I think that people need to allow the content to require learning, right? People seem to expect a lot. Not you specifically. You're actually a pretty good example of the opposite of this. But, you know, I see a lot of people who expect content to be able to be beaten effectively first try, often without even like looking up a guide or anything. It's just like, it's almost as if like people want Eve to be challenging, but like more that Eve has the illusion of being challenging to be spooky, so that way you feel good when you beat it. But that isn't what Eve is here to do. Boo learning. You didn't get blown up. There you go. Yeah, it's not last hit. It's top damage, which ironically is even more unfair. Technically speaking, last hit would be at least you'd have a chance.
Drive active.
Ishtar drone. The sites themselves hate drones, especially if you're by yourself. The alpha-friendly build, there's a Praxis on my Eve workbench that some people have been having some success with. Oh, little Estero. Sorry, I got here first. There's so many sites right now, though. Just use a Gila. Has the Gila been successful? In the event sites, at least? I'd say that if you're getting a Gila, you might as well run the Abyss. That's just me. So the thing is that event rats in particular, they are designed to swap targets, right? This is actually designed to make it so that if somebody comes into your site, like halfway through, there's a reasonably good chance, there's a better than normal chance that the rats will actually swap to the new target. Likewise, if you are in a fleet with other people, the rats are designed to kind of spread their damage, in order to make it so that it's a lot easier to fight as a bunch of people, because you spread out the damage more. But these behaviors also mean that if you do it with by yourself, once you launch your drones, those drones are now the only other thing for them to swap to. So they'll swap to your drones. This is at least some speculation on my part, but this is my best understanding of these rats and why they do what they do. How the hell did I beat an Estero? I got there first. You got that one first. Once I started my hack, he couldn't take it from me. So overall, I think that it's easy to suggest that this is a so far a pretty successful setup. Sorry, Charlie. A little late. And I've made 20 million so far in just this one system. All right, let's go back to ice mining a little bit. Although, let's actually go to the next ice field just in case, because that other ice field probably has been mined out pretty good. What is an ore green salvage box? Not enough cargo space. Enticing. But now what? If I'm not going to open it, what do I do? What do I do? How do I close this window? Boom, got it. I'm gonna have to dock up soon. I'm actually probably gonna have to dock up before I do a turn-in. Oh yeah, this field's also almost done. So let's just go ahead and dock up. See what's in this box. Turn things in. Oh, that's the thing I got for turning in my volatile ice. That's right. I feel that it's important to consciously make everything you do in game more about the experience than the reward. I agree. And if you do that, I find that the reward just, like, magically is there. If you're sweating about the reward, then you'll probably ruin your experience. Just finished the track, and now I wish that I had a separate track for each activity. That's a cool idea. I've actually said that what I'd like to see is, like, added to the activity tracker, your history. Like, I want to see how many points, I want a record of how many points I got each event every year. I hate the fact that that information's lost. That and these guys. Oh, Hardshell 4? That's a good one. All right. What do I got? What do I got? 8th tier overseers, 5th tier overseers, charred microcircuits. Bum bum ba bum. Pew. All right. Well, neat. Gallon 07. Be a noob and bring your Gnosis into nullsec and get jumped at half health and almost win. That does sound like fun. Oh my god. Oh my god, I can't click. I'm just going to assume that 72 one is like, that RSY 72 is the oldest one. Eventon? What's wrong, man? All I know is that he's got a green name and you don't, so... I mean... You wouldn't do it again for a while? Well, again, the secret is that you get some of your buddies and you take like 5 gnosis, and you go and run ESS sites. I think it's legitimately it is. I'm pretty sure still gnosis. By the way, I was kind of joking about that, but courtmate is a pretty strong word. Oh man, shots fired. I don't know who gave me the green name. I could look it up, but I think it would take me a while. Man, the shopping thing, man. Like, I need to figure out how to make it so that the shopping thing makes more sense. Let's see. Sticker. I'm a big fan of these mugs. Oh, shoot. Oh, hold on. I can pin things. Hey, that's actually pretty cool. I'm just experimenting with these things. How do you like streaming on YouTube rather than Twitch? I love streaming on YouTube over Twitch. Like, there's been some minor hiccups. Like the chat API isn't quite as good, but like it just, to me, it works so much better overall. Being able to use the in-browser editor, which admittedly has been touch and go, is pretty neat. The fact that my VODs are just immediately available is awesome. The fact that I can set up premieres that like go, like I can have a video that premieres and then have that immediately go into my live stream, or a live stream that immediately, like instead of rating a person, I can send them to a premiere of my YouTube video. These are all very cool things. I do miss the ability to rate other people and the social aspect of it, which is why more people need to swap to YouTube, so that way I can set it up that I do send them to their videos and streams. The salvage boxes have been the same for 3 years. Yeah, the event has been basically more or less the same for 3 years. Yeah, you need a lot of third-party program legwork to make a YouTube chat like Twitch chat. Well, my point is that, like, not even that. It just doesn't work. Like, you'll notice the chat up here is, like, often very delayed and kind of comes in bursts. That's because that uses the chat API. So, like, it's not great. And everybody bitches about the Twitch app. That's true. Oh, I got 14 blocks. I should probably turn in. Oh, shoot. I cut off. I accidentally hit F1. Oh, well. Let's go turn in. Did I even get that block of ice? I don't think so. If you cut off ice early, you don't get it. Oh! I must have gotten something. Boing. So again, I want to remind everybody that this ship, assuming that you started logging in on the first day of the login rewards here, you should be able to fly a version of this exact ship loadout tomorrow for up to 4 days. So that's what we're doing today, is we're showing that we can make plenty of points without having to contest combat sites and without having to go to stupid dangerous areas where we get killed by a bunch of people. This is a perfectly great way for an alpha player to engage, to capitalize on what's available for this event. Hit a capsuleer with a snowball? Heck yeah. Will do. Now, it is worth noting that the Endurance does not have the Covert Ops cloak. That's the Prospect. But it does have the standard cloak. Yes, I'm completing both data and mining events sites. Yep. What Ortica said is exactly my strategy. Is I'm mining, and then when a hacking site shows up, I just probe it down and go and run it real quick. What should be in the pinned messages? I can only see that the product is no longer available. Are you serious? No, it's totally there. I think. I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, the Endurance is better for ice mining in general, so... When theory crafting vid on Deathless Pirate Faction spaceships? I've already said this before, but I'll say it again. I think that the Deathless Pirate Faction will be the Caldari Mimitar pirate ship line. And what I would like to see is that their cheat be that they have the old school ECM drones. Or old school ECM jams. In other words, if they successfully jam you, then you can't lock back anybody, including themselves. In the same way that like Blood Raiders have the old school NOS and other such things. So I think that would be good for a smuggler group. Have a speed and missile shield setup that's more about keeping the enemy locked down and getting away. It might step on the Garmer. You might need to go shield turrets, actually, now that I think about it. Shield projectiles. Yeah, shield projectiles. There you go. Almost like a Vagabond, but more piratey. Well, yeah. I mean, all of the pirate faction cheats are pretty strong. Web drone bonus. Get wrecked. That's funny. Although I think that drone bonus is unironically good on the Myrmidon Navy issue. I haven't tested it in like live, but on paper it makes a lot of sense. Also, I'm not mining anything? Is this... That seems correct. So it is possible it'll drop something inside next week. What? I would not expect anything new through the end of the year, for sure. Like, the thing is that one of the reasons why this event goes on as long as it does is because CCP literally likes to put on the winter event and then go on vacation. So I would just assume that we're not going to hear much this year or for the rest of the year. And if something is going to be available in January, it'll be because they already kind of had it mostly prepared. January is often a pretty quiet time. So sorry, Magnate. Stormlord hit with a snowball. Come on, man. You've got to be kidding me. I want to see a dual weapon system actually work instead of one or the other like a Mimitar ships currently. Either Caldari or Mimitar use drones as a main weapon system. Yes. Well, yeah. Well, the thing is that, like, again, if we see anything for the rest of the year, it's going to be because it was already laid out, you know? So, you know, we saw, for instance, the Doctor Who event, I think in January or February, and we saw the Dragonar Blitz event in January. But even then, like, that introduced the Nirvana implants, which CCP Fozzie had been working on for over a year up until that point. So, you know, it's possible, but unlikely that there'll be too much stuff. I imagine that we'll probably in January start hearing a lot more about the Allegiance system, and then be seeing that in like February, March, and then have that lead us into... That's right, FanFest is late this year. So that kind of throws off my calculations. That actually means that, like, the Allegiance system could be closer to the spring expansion coming out in like March or April. It depends on how extensive the Allegiance system ends up being. I imagine that we will get more about the Allegiance system and more rewards for ever bucks. By the way, I actually figured out, or not figured out, but last night we were musing, and I think I know why they went with corp logos. Maybe I talked about this on stream. I don't. It all blends in together at this point. But so the thing is that the UI for the Evernotes, the what is it? It's Evermore. The Paragon station and the new stuff that Paragon's providing. That whole UI is awful. It is unacceptably awful, right? Like right now, there are several logos that I'd like to check out, but like you can't see what a logo is going to be before buying it. This is why, like, I really want somebody to make a website. We need to start collecting together these images because it's time gated and you have to buy the fucking thing in order to know where the logo is and whether or not it looks good. Both the Alliance and the Corp logo for every single ship. So, like, that's kind of annoying. But the problem is, the thing about that is that you kind of, like, you already know what your logo looks like, right? Like, you may not know where it appears on the ship, but you know that it is your Corp or Alliance logo, and it's on the ship, right? And that's pretty much... Jesus Christ, look at all these forward bases. That's so many. Anywho, where was I? There's like multiple scanners in here now, so the chances of me getting more than one is going to be pretty low. That they get away with it because it's logos. This is why they've constrained it to logos at the beginning, is my thought. Because if it was anything else besides logos, the current interface would be 1,000% unacceptable, right? If it was actual other particle systems, not just a logo that you're already aware of, buying them sight unseen would be completely unacceptable. So I assume that that preview system is not finished yet, and therefore they're sticking to effects that don't need to be previewed before purchased. Did I loot the can? I thought I did. Maybe not. Maybe not. Possible I didn't. Inventory space got gypped again this year. What do you mean? The storms are all concentrated in the center, not the edges, so overlap. Well, I found that the storms are not even overlapping though. Like, if you follow the Pakshi gate between the Concord space and Mimitar space, then you actually end up with like this long winding chain of just like over a dozen systems all linked together by storms. Molten Heath got nothing 3 years in a row. I don't know. It is entirely possible that the storms spawn more or less the same areas every year, because I know that the spawning locations of a lot of the storms were chosen by CCP in order to highlight specific areas. Like there's a storm in New Eden, or at least there was last year, because people are going to be randomly teleporting to these places, so they kind of put them in interesting areas. Besides, it doesn't matter where they are. Like, you can just teleport to them with filaments. There's an in-game decoy item? What do you mean? Not if you're in faction warfare? Well, if you're in faction warfare, shouldn't you be in the low-sec sites anyways? decoy. Are you talking about the mobile directional scan inhibitor? Oh, he got it to me. He got it before me. I was pretty sure he would get it before me. Go ahead and keep going. I'll finally move on to another system. That's the thing about this event. I never, ever, ever, even though they're constrained into these storms, I almost never feel like I'm out of content. Oh. Decoy prototype cloaking devices? Yeah, I don't know.
Drive active.
That's pretty cool. I know I've got some of the anaconda mines, but I don't think anybody's ever given me a decoy before. Oops, I think I warped to 20.
Drive active.
Speaking of holo projections, though, I do like the new propaganda towers and how they look. Wow. All right, let's keep on checking out other ones.
Warp drive active.
You know, I always wanted, rather than having combat recon, like the curse or whatever, or is that force? I can never remember which one's which. The non-cloaking ones, when they gave them descan invulnerability, so they don't appear on directional scan. I mean, that's good. It's fine, but the idea that I always much would have rather had was I wanted them to have a descan range extension, right? Because it's about reconnaissance, not necessarily just not being seen, but I want the idea that, like, your advantage is that you can sit outside of everybody else's descan range and descan them. Because that's not an advantage that exists in the game right now. But then again, neither does not showing up on cloaking or on descan, so it's a different way to do it. Yeah, I wanted the recon ships to get like a 30 AU descan range or more. You can still probe them. I mean, if it's a hold on. If you're suggesting that there should be an active module that makes it so that you can't be descanned or probed, cloaking exists. I think that you just invented the cloak. Then I'm not following. What's the difference between a cloak and an active module that makes it so you don't show up on descan or probed? Oh, increases the descan range. Yeah, but I really wanted it to be like a hull bonus. I thought that would be a really cool idea for a hull bonus. That there's a class of ships. Because I did real reconnaissance. So I'm always in favor of reconnaissance in Eve being about actual reconnaissance, the gaining of information.
Warp drive active.
Not just being stealthy. Maybe both? I mean, whatever. I always wanted a ship that could do more than... The fact that everything is hard limited to 14.3 AU, I don't like rules with 0 exceptions. Just like, in my opinion, the Guardian Vexor exists just so that when people ask, well, are there any ships with bonuses that increase how many drones they can use? The answer is technically yes, but actually no. And I'm okay with that. That is a satisfactory answer in my universe. 7 million out of 1. I swear to God, I am getting more from these cans than I was in the combat sites yesterday. Now, arguably, that's because the combat sites also were giving me about 4 million in bounties per site. But come on, man. The difference in effort between the two, even assuming how quick and easy the event sites are, the combat sites. Normally, hacking is possible, but like definitely not optimal. But in this case, I think that hacking is probably so far the best of the 3 in high sec. With a little bit of the, like, the mining is actually pretty good consistency, especially if you can't run the combat sites. Maybe give the combat scepters. Well, that goes into, like, the interceptor, interdiction bonus and all that stuff. Like... you gotta, I guess one of the things I like to think about is like, what is the core fantasy of the different things? What are the core functions of these different things? So like a recon ship should be about finding the enemy and, you know, maneuvering, being the forward scout force for a larger group, like a BLOPS team, right? Like covert ops, Sinos, etc. An interceptor is about catching things. It's about being super fast and being able to get in there and stop people. Which is why I think that interceptors should get what I originally suggested for the assault frigates, which is basically a version of the assault damage control that rather than giving them tons of resistances, actually gives them to be able to effectively slough E-War for a short period of time. So you can't web them, you can't, you know, they get increased maybe even warp core stability, but definitely like webs don't work, newts barely work, jams don't work.
Warp drive active.
That way they can get their tackle. Just for a period of time, like 10 to 15 seconds. But yeah, I don't like statements that can be said, like absolute definitive statements about the design of things, right? Like there should always be, for any given rule, there should be some exception to it somewhere within the game. Just so that you can't like 100% rely on a rule. Like, you know, like for instance, in faction warfare, you know, the fact that combat recon ships, or, you know, the curse, can't be seen on D-scan made it so that medium complexes were just more dangerous. you the curse was not that common, but it made it so that you couldn't be sure by looking inside through DScan that it was in fact clear, right? And just that little bit of like, well, there is an edge case where this isn't true, I think is what helps make things more complicated, right? So especially when it comes to ship restrictions, it's always good for there to be something that breaks the rule, such that if you really want to break that rule, you can, but you have to use this specialized equipment to do so. Does that make sense? Like the luxury yacht is another good example of such a thing. One nullification, one warp scram immunity. I'd even settle on a micro warp drive that doesn't get shut off by being scrammed. Oh, 7 Sidewinder. No, I think that I honestly think that the mobile observatory has done pretty good. And I know this because when things really matter, people do deploy them. I've seen them be used in multiple instances, both to try to catch me and to catch my friend. However, they're so cost prohibitive and, you know, whatnot, that while they are functional, you don't just want to spam them willy-nilly. They're cost and preparation intensive. You have to have them ready, and they cost like 100 million or whatever each. And they're no guarantee to work. You know what the purpose of the observatory is? It's not to make it so that you can just find people. Like, that's not actually the point. The point of the observatory is to get people to shut up about cloaky camping. That's it. It's that simple. It starts and ends with that. It's not to actually fix cloaky camping. It's not to end cloaky camping. It's to stop people from complaining about it. Because the issue was there was no counterplay. So we have this situation where we have this mechanic, or we have this tactic, right, in which the opponent is doing literally nothing, right? The threat is that they are in system with you, which causes two problems. One, how do you balance against a psychological threat, right? Like, any damage that it does is effectively psychological for most of the time. But really, in my opinion, what this does is it showcases just how bad it is for us to have local be our intel tool. The fact that we've defaulted to a chat program being our intel system means that our intel system is effectively undesigned. And we get into these sorts of problems. So anything that's a problem with cloaky camping is a result of the inherent weaknesses, or the over-reliance on local and the psychology of things, right? So, but at the same time, it is very impactful. It is a very valid, very useful strategy for the people that entail it, to the point where basically everybody does it. And it effectively only creates a suppression factor. And more importantly, though, there's no solution to it, right? Once somebody begins practicing this on you, there's basically nothing that you can do to actually compensate for it besides get over your own fear. And even that comes with its own risk, because, you know, they can realize that fear at any time. So what do? Well, what you do is you give them a tool. All right, you're claiming that these guys are AFK in your system all day, every day, and there's barely ever at the keyboard. They're not even there. They're just AFK, and every once in a while they pop out and kill somebody, and therefore they can terrorize everybody all day, right? That's the problem. That's the complaint. Not that they can be there, not that they can gank people, but because they can be there all day while AFK. So the observatory does one simple thing. If you're right, if you are correct, if they are in fact completely AFK and only camping you, then this tool will let you catch them and kill them. But if you're wrong and they are there and able to actively play, then guess what? Chances are the observatory is insufficient to actually catch them. And I think that that's correct, because the idea that someone's active gameplay of actively scouting and hunting somebody could be disrupted simply because you can wave them off as being AFK, I think is completely disrespectful. So I appreciate the fact that the solution is, all right, well, if you think that they're AFK, then here you go. Here's a tool that works if and only if you are correct. Yeah, I stream on YouTube now. And if you're just finding this out, that means that there's plenty of back videos for you to go check out. Anything else big and bulky? Also, that just remind me, if you did have a subscription to my Twitch, ensure that you go and manually make sure it's turned off. From my understanding, Twitch is still taking money from my subs without actually paying me any of it. If you want to continue to support in the same way, there is now a member thing. So you can become a member of the channel, or you can do super chats, super thanks, and all that kind of stuff on YouTube, or join my Patreon. 7th tier times 2. Some salvage. The ones in low sec are much better, right? Yeah. Just so you guys know. Sell items. Get a mug, get a t-shirt. It's cool. Heck yeah. I've enjoyed the lore videos. Been watching them for years, as well as Yintans. Yeah. Man, so many people are like, yeah, I love your lore videos with Yintan. And I just, like, I hate to put it, like, I can't put it any other way. It kind of makes me cringe a little bit because of, I know how little I knew at the time. Right? Like, at that point, I knew most of my lore information by just talking to people about it. I hadn't done all that much, like, actual formal, like, research and reading all this stuff myself. So, like, for instance, in the Mimitar video, he literally knew more about the Mimitar than I did. So, like, now I feel, like, really bad because so many people go to that video over all of the other stuff. I'm just concerned about any, like, thing that I said out of ignorance, you know? But that's the great threat about making YouTube content. But the good news is that just means I get to make it over and over again. It's crazy. When I left here, there was like 12 White Storm bases and no cosmic signatures. And here we go, opposite now. Oh, there's an Amicus. Sorry, trying to do multiple things at once.
Warp drive active.
I didn't catch what's in that one, but hopefully it was good. I guess it's probably these bottom things. 3.4? That sounds about right. Where's my probes? There they are. Ooh, double rings. I don't even know what to do with that. I think I'm just going to put it over here. See what happens. Wild. I doubt I get anything with this one, but we'll see. No. You need to make a video or do a live stream where you spiral into the most niche and insane lore speculations. You know, I have done, like, actually, you know what I want to do? And I've talked about this before, trying to get some people to coordinate with it, but my goal is to do the Eve Iceberg, right? Like, you know how there's the lore iceberg for things where you start at like the surface level, the things that everybody knows, and you go deeper and deeper and deeper until you go into like the absolute batshit insane, like fringe things that like barely anybody even knows is a thing, but and likely isn't true, but some people speculate about. Like, for instance, we didn't actually travel in space; we traveled in time, and Anoikis is actually prehistoric soul, like, or sorry, Anoikis is in fact New Eden, just in a different time frame, as opposed to different space. That would be pretty deep down the layers, I think. But I've been meaning to do like the top 10 villains of EVE Online. Maybe 5, I don't know. I think I got 10. At one point I'd written them down. Broker's like level like 9 or 8 because he's probably dead. The trigger like are 4. Sanchez. Maybe it's Sanchez 4, trigger 3, drifters are 2, capsuleers are 1. I think that's it. I think that was it. The shtick is that capsuleers were number 1. Ah! Right as I finished scanning it, it disappeared. That other scanner is here, and he seems pretty decent.
Warp drive active.
And, you know, when I first showed up here, there were 7 scanning sites and 2 combat sites, and now there's a bunch of combat sites and not a lot of data. Like, these things cycle so fast. Smart bomb neuting. Isn't that void bombs? So void smart bombs? I guess you don't want to warp to these acceleration gates at 10. I didn't warp at 20 before. I warped at 10. Normally you want to warp at an acceleration gate at 10. Or I didn't activate it. One of the two. Well, now I'm gonna... Hold on. What? Oh. Dang it. There's no... That was weird. There's like no way that this guy isn't already scanning down the site. There's no way I beat him. Yeah, there it goes. It's a virtue, you can tell. I don't remember what that's a reference to. Oh wow, there's a lot of ice in this belt. Sweet. I mean, what I'm doing, it keeps on changing up, but I've always got something to do. I really like this. What's a PMSL? Oh, virtue implants. I gotcha. I gotcha. I'm tracking. What is... I don't know. Thank you for all the info tonight and in-game coming from 48-year-old. Oh, got it. No, I don't know that abbreviation. I feel weird or bad for not knowing now. Calm down, minor. I just, like I said, I actually really liked the Doctor Who event too, because it constantly was mixing up what I needed to do to progress myself. Oh, got it. I thought you were saying something about who you were. I thought you were saying you were 48-year-old that thing. I thought it was like a type of paramedic or something. So you can laugh a second time. Yeah. That's 1,000% what I thought you were saying. Postmaster. Oh god. No, I went with paramedic. Because the thing is that paramedics always have like abbreviations like that, like nurses, and there's all these different qualifications. They're the kind of people that would have that kind of abbreviation, is what I'm trying to say. I knew it wasn't military because it wasn't 3 letters long. That's a joke. Anywho. No, just hold. Yeah. Don't be saying that too much. I'm not that much further behind you at this point. Yeah, we say in the Army we would talk about TLAs. Make sure to get all your TLAs. Wait, what's a TLA? 3-letter acronym. All right. Well, there's nothing to probe. And we're just waiting for the ice to melt. Make sure everything's on. Yep, everything's high. Om nom nom. You have a lot more hair than me, or I have a lot more hair than you. This it comes from a combination of not being able to have hair in the military, and when I was a software developer, it was kind of a joke that you could tell how good a software developer was by how long their hair was, because anytime if you had to go get a new job, you had to cut your hair to make yourself look professional, but then once you settled into a job, you just let your hair grow. You ready for CCP's mobile game? I'm pretty interested in it. I am more fascinated by the number of people that were caught off guard by it. Like, they've been talking about it for over a year now. It's being produced by CCP Shanghai, so it's a totally different look. Like it's basically EVE Online, but on a different scale, right? Rather than being an individual pilot, you're more of a it's more of a command level position, you know, more like Sins of the Solar Empire or whatever. Yeah, Eve has everything for an RTS game. Issues RTS genre is kind of dying out. Yeah, but I think that this actually makes it a pretty decent place. Like, I don't know how the free-to-play aspect of it, or like the mobile economics and monetization, that seems to always be like the thing that ruins these things. But like, if you set that aside, it it really lends itself, right, to having this continuous, uh, kind of perpetual environment in which you have an empire. You know, you can get notifications through your phone. You can put out tasks. It's basically you get to be an alliance leader, but without actually having to hold together the real people for the alliance. But it's like that level of position. And I think that you could actually make that really good. You can make a good game out of that. Eve, the thing is that like people like some people complain about like the dev effort or whatever, but the thing is that I think that the Eve IP is really wasted on it just being Eve Online. Not saying that Eve Online isn't great, but the Eve IP really deserves to be able to stretch its muscles, I think. It really deserves to be seen through multiple lenses, not just the lens of Capsuleers. I have no faith in a mobile game because I have zero faith in the mobile gaming audience. Yeah, I mean, I've been challenged by this on a lot of levels for a very long time, right? Like, this has been one of the things that I mull over a lot. Being the fact that I was an Android developer, I do dabble in game development and design, and obviously I play games. The thing is that like there's nothing inherent to a mobile game that makes it require it being predatory, with the exception that there is an overall understanding in mobile gaming that you will pay less up front. You know, like mobile games are generally accepted to be cheaper than normal games or free, right? Like if they're not that, then it's really unusual. Like you're not going to see a $20 game on a mobile platform that ends up being really popular and real big. Like people aren't going to purchase a mobile game. A lot of times that people don't purchase a mobile game as a full-on like experience. Now that may be because nobody's really providing that as so much. But the point of the matter is that game development is very expensive. And so they've got to figure out some way to manage it. And so regardless of whether or not it's the initial thing or it comes later, at some point the issue of monetization must be addressed. And the other thing is that like there are certain behaviors, there are certain things, economics that are more acceptable within a mobile environment than there is in other environments. In the same way that like selling a mobile game for $40 is kind of unacceptable, so too is having quite as much free to play like tomfoolery as you get in a mobile game in a normal game, right? Like you wouldn't expect that in a AAA title if that's not made by EA, for example. So it's challenging to me because like when a game is first announced, it's like we assume that it's going to have the same monetization issues that seem to plague the industry. But on the other hand, like there's a decent reason why companies want to make mobile games, and it's not just a cash grab. It's the fact that we have more, like it is such an untapped potential. You know, we have, on average, Americans have 1 hour of free time. An adult has a 1 hour of free time that they can do whatever they want. So like your game is competing with all other forms of entertainment, their family, movies, everything. But people spend like 4 hours a day on their phone. So by contrast, if you can make a game that they can engage with on the phone, then that is really cool. And a lot of this gets seen in Eve Echoes. I actually really like the fact that Eve Echoes, because it caters to a more AFK style and because it's on your phone, what actually ends up happening is the feeling and experience that you're always playing it. It's always happening. You just check in on it and make sure that the plates are spinning and get back to it. And like sometimes you can sit there with it open and watching it do, you know, and like sometimes you can even play it more. If you want to play it more actively, you can rat, or you know, if you want to play more AFK, then you can mine. But like the point is that it feels like when I play Eve, I sit down and it's like my Eve session. When I'm playing Echoes, the barriers between when I'm playing Echoes and when I'm not is very, very thin. You know, I'm playing Echoes literally while I'm driving my car, not because it's dangerous, but because I can set something up and know that it's going to be good to go and check on it in like 5 minutes or whatever. So like, I think that there is a world for a 4X game that is tied to mobile. And I'm excited about the possibilities of that. But I have to admit that the industry is the way it is. And so at this point, I think it's fairly safe to say that a mobile game must prove itself, likely over time, before it's worth as much investment as you would put into, say, like EVE Online, you know? Echoes is an AFK game. By that, I mean, like, it's not a totally AFK game. It definitely rewards more, you know, like people being engaged versus not. But my point is that, like, in every single way, Echoes' design is, like, one beat closer towards AFK friendly, right? There's no ganking in high sec, so therefore you can literally, like, if you need to go pick something up from Jita, you just set your autopilot, you hit autopilot, and then you close the app. And then it notifies you when you make it to Jita. Yeah, I closed the app. Why would I not close the app? I'm going from high sec to high sec. Literally nobody can gank me. It's just a matter of time. Yeah, exactly, Solstice. That's what I'm saying. Like, as an Eve player, your first gut response is to be like, "Oh, AFK focused. Because of what we think about when it comes to AFK in Eve." But again, it's way more about setting tasks and then checking on them, right? You have to check on your PI every 24 hours. You got to check on your mining stuff every couple of minutes. You got to check on your, you know, when you're ratting, you can even set it up so that, like, okay, so I hit a button and it does auto lock. Auto lock locks, it just continues to lock things according to my rules of priority of locking of what's on grid until I run out of locking space. So it just locks everything on grid with me pretty much automatically. So then, not automatically, but with a hit of one button. And then I start shooting, right? Now, I have a thing, you can choose it to set, so that way when I start using a module on somebody, or on something, it automatically begins orbiting at that item's optimal range. So now I just start shooting, and I automatically start orbiting it at my optimal. Cool. Now, when that dude dies, when a guy dies, the weapon system attempts to use itself on the next item, the next guy that gets, it goes down the list, right? So the next guy becomes the active target. It'll attempt to use all of your offensive modules on it. If anything works, then once again, it now starts the orbit on that guy. So in essence, you can set it up so that you can just warp to the site, drop your drones, lock everything, hit the attack, and then like just kind of monitor it as it works its way through. Now, if you're actively playing, then you can, select your targets in the moment better. You can, kind of keep things spinning. You can be more efficient if you're playing it actively. But you can also just literally have it be on your desk playing itself effectively while you watch. And both of those are totally valid. It's more than just ganking, or it's more than just warping to zero. Although that is also true in low sec, which people freak out about, or freaked out about for a while. It's actually the fact that there's literally no ganking in high sec at all. There's no PvP in high sec. Period. I'm pretty sure there's not even war decks. Like there's no PvP in high sec whatsoever. It's a totally different environment. Now, one of the interesting effects of that means that like there will be these, you'll try to find a mining point, and everybody, there'll be these huge retrievers or whatever that just comes in and like noms up all of the ore. By the way, like all ore is done in like anomalies that are relatively smallish but cycle, so you're constantly having to watch the new sites appear because you want like the little bit of good stuff that's in the site as opposed to most of the garbage, and you're constantly cycling it. But the problem is that like if somebody's competing with you, there's nothing you can do about it, right? There's nothing you can do about it whatsoever. And that isn't great, and it also makes it so that a lot of those activities are kind of more, I mean, like there's less gameplay involved as much as like being there on that level. So like this is why I say that ganking's really important in EVE, because like if you really want a true like miner gameplay or industrialist gameplay, like those protections or those threats, like gankers, are your gameplay. I say this all the time, right? Like dealing with those guys are your gameplay. I know that you don't want the gankers because it gets in the way of what you're trying to do, which is mine. But in my opinion, that's the equivalent of saying that I don't want Goombas and pits in a Mario game because it gets in the way of me going from left to right. Right? Like, yes, the goal is to go from left to right, but the game is learning where all the Goombas are and, perfecting your jumping process over all of the pits. Right? Like, the mining is the quote-unquote reward. Dealing with the threats that are out there, both player and NPC, that is the gameplay.
Warp drive active.
All mobile games run off this idea of 1 hour free time per day. So this is actually a very classic, I guess you could say, predatory practice. I mean, it was really popularized back in like the Farmville days, the idea of energy. So the concept is, this goes back to the idea of like you always playing it. Because I just said that as a good thing, but like as a game developer, you want that concept because that means that it's also addictive, right? Like I want you to be thinking about my game all day, even when you're not playing it. So by only giving you a limited amount of actions per day, I can now sell you more actions, but B, now I stop you, you know, mid without resolution. I'm trying not to think of like a sexual innuendo, but you know what I mean. Like, you leave them wanting, and therefore you spend the entire rest of the time planning the next thing. So now you're playing, you're thinking about it, even when you're not playing the game. Oh yeah, hate gankers, but realize that they are simply a manifestation of the mechanic. There's actually no functional difference between CCP allowing ganking
Active.
by players and having a random number generator that spawns gate camps on gates that could be choke points, right? Like, there's functionally no difference between allowing gankers to exist and making it so that randomly certain gates have just NPCs ready to kill you. It's all the same. It's just sometimes this path is super dangerous. Sometimes it's not. The fact that it is a human means that you can now play the psychology game. There's a thing to learn. Like, there's a person to learn. You can learn their patterns, you know, all that kind of stuff. But functionally speaking, mechanically speaking, it's the same thing. Because the NPC, the players are having to follow a very strict set of rules, and so do you. So it really is the gameplay of who applies the rules better. And there is a strong component of, I don't need to outrun the bear, I only need to outrun you, right? Like, one of the things I like to think about is someone's going to get ganked. It's not about stopping the ganking. It's about making sure they gank somebody else. Well, yes, there are other aspects to the gameplay. You know, like there's research and there's ME and TE and all that sort of stuff. But what I'm saying is that, like, the edge, the special sauce of EVE Online is the consequences of the player interaction. Yeah, well, that's the problem is that, like, predatory, on the one hand, you know, predatory monetization sucks. On the other hand, games should not cost as little as they do, right? We are unwilling to actually pay on an individual level the actual value of what it takes to the cost of making a game, right? So the idea is that few people effectively subsidize the game for the collective, right? Like, there's a few people, whales, that spend thousands of dollars, so that way a lot of people can play it for $5 or $10 or whatever it is, right? The problem is that, like, continually finding that line, right? And I think that EVE Online ends up doing a good job with this, precisely because EVE Online, well, there's two things that makes EVE work in this regard. One is the fact that loss is permanent, which means progress is temporary. You can buy skills, but skills aren't really progress. They feel like progress, and they make you stronger, but they're more about access than progress in that sense, right? Like, if I buy a shiny paladin, I'm going to lose it eventually. So you can buy power in EVE, but because of the ephemeral nature of everything in EVE, that kind of counteracts the damage that the idea of it being, because like it's literally pay to win, and it has been forever, like way before it was free to play. But it was never a problem because while it is technically free to play or pay to win, it's more like pay to lose more money in reality, right? But really that's because of the permadeath nature, the perma-loss nature of things, right? So the things that you buy aren't even necessarily going to last forever. You're not buying a permanent upgrade of your strength. But the other thing is shoot, I had a whole nother point, but now I'm probing and I'm thinking about that. Oh, EVE Online falls under the category of, here's a question. Why are most of the successful free-to-play games competitive? Right? Like, think about it. All of the best free-to-play games that are actually worth playing, like League of Legends, Counter-Strike, whatever, Fortnite, these are all highly competitive games. Why? The answer is really simple. In EVE, I would really love it if you paid $20 a month. Let's just say I'm EVE, I'm CCP right now, right? Like as CCP, I would love it if you paid $15 or $20 to play the game. That'd be neat. However, if you can't or don't want to, I could still use you as content. EVE needs people, right? If you want to think about it, there's almost like players and actors. Although, in essence, we're kind of acting in each other's play, if that makes sense. But, if you're not going to be a payer, then at the very least, you can make the game better and functional for those who do pay. That's why I like to say that, alphas are consumers, not producers, right? I say that all the time. And this is why. Because if they basically, alpha is a contract. I'm going to let you play this game, even though you should have to pay for it. But I'm going to let you play it because you literally are like a function of the game now. You're there to be a thing in space for people to interact with more than anything. That's the value that you bring to the table if you're not going to be paying for the game with cash, right? So it behooves CCP to get as much money from as many people as possible, but then also have as many people as possible in the game, which means that the perverse incentive that normally exists when it comes to like free-to-play games with like, create the problem, sell the solution, isn't necessary as much because the game itself, like when Josh Faze was talking about free-to-play versus paid MMOs, a free-to-play game means that they need to encourage, they're incentivized to build problems to force you to buy the solution for them. And that's one of the things that makes them so predatory. But in EVE, along with things like League of Legends and stuff, our goal is actually to get you to stay in the game as much as possible because you are making the game better. You are the quality that is necessary for our played players to want to pay. But at the same time, you actually don't run into that big problem where the game just becomes whales picking on the plebeians, right? EVE manages to resist both of those problems just by its own nature. And I think that that's one of the reasons why EVE is so successfully transitioned to free-to-play and why I think that it has managed to resist so much. It's also why I'm always concerned and watching Echoes, because if that theory is true, then Echoes should also resist it, or we should see the problems arise when you change those facts or compromise things. And you know what? We honestly see that latter one a lot. You can see where Echoes has kind of compromised the design of Eve in some ways, and in sometimes it really works, like with the combat systems that I was talking about earlier. But there's a lot of things like industry and other stuff that you can tell just isn't working nearly as well, design-wise. And like Echoes has managed to fix the problem by gamifying it, whereas Eve tries to fix the problem by convincing us to do it one way or another. Yeah, content equals materials, and exactly. But again, you got to be a producer. You got to be a consumer, not a producer, because producers are competing with each other. If alphas could produce the same way that and resource harvest the same way that omegas do, then like that power of infinity would make that the only way to do things. But if they're only consumers, well, consumption is constrained by available resources. So there you have it. And I think on that note, this is probably a pretty good time to start wrapping up the stream. So let's go ahead and look at how much progress we made. Today we made 200 points in a little over 2.5 hours, or about 2 hours. We did it pretty, I mean, like we were pretty active about it. I felt like I was constantly doing stuff. And we got quite a few other skins. I think it was just like pretty rewarding. Let's see whether or not there's a... What has my wallet been? So like today would be 16th, starting at... yeah, I guess it would be right here. So I went from... Oh, that's market transactions. I'm dumb. All right, let's start here. So I made, what, 30 million or so in ISK? Is that right? 194 to, no, yeah. 20 to 30 million plus these skins and this stuff. So definitely a valid strategy. If you're an alpha or whatever, you will get the expert system on day 3 of this event, and you can go out there and just grind your heart out to get the points. And as you can see, like, no, especially if you stuck to the ice stuff, no amount of people trying to race you will stop you. You can just go ahead and get your points and finish the tasks and get the event done and make quite a bit of money. Like for an alpha, like the thing is that you got to remember when it comes to like money as a newer player should pretty much stay as an alpha, right? So on the one hand, you make a little bit less money. On the other hand, you don't have 2.5 billion ISK a month to pay. So if you think about it, it's like what, 90 million ISK a day? So just being an alpha gives you 90 million ISK a day to accept the restrictions of alpha, you know, if you want to think about it that way when it comes to profitability. So if you're making 20 million ISK per hour and other people are making 60 million ISK per hour, but they're paying 2.5 billion ISK a month, like, or real life currency equivalent, you get what I'm saying? Like, you got to keep that in mind. So as an alpha, you know, with no costs on your account, this is just raw profit at that point. The ship itself, even with this fit, and like I said, you're probably going to have to downgrade a couple of the modules. But this fit is 74 million, and that's with the Sister Core probe launcher. And you saw that, like, I probably needed the Sister Core probe launcher to get it. Otherwise, I would have had to have implants or maybe a second rig or another thing, you know, whatever. You might have some difficulty scanning things down competitively. But the mining part was definitely good. Yeah, and more than capable of being done by an alpha, by everybody. So I think that this is a pretty well done event overall. And I think this is my last stream for the year. Well, it might be. This is my last guaranteed stream for the year. Keep an eye on my YouTube channel, because I do have a couple more videos that need to come out, including the remainder of the Theodicy chapters, some highlights from the previous streams. Again, if you missed the stream, you can always go back to any of the streams, and go back and watch the whole thing as soon as it's over. You know, whatever. Thanks for all the hints and tips. Yes, and I have other videos with hints and tips. So make sure to check out like my training videos, etc. Share my videos around. Show them to people. Let's help raise literacy of EVE Online, right? That's what this is all about. So, and thank you to all of you guys who check this out and watch it and support the stream. Thank you to, well, LM1 specifically. I think he became a member today, which I really appreciate. Those memberships are really cool. Losing Twitch Prime was probably the biggest sad about switching from Twitch to YouTube. So the people that are coming over, becoming members, they get the emotes. They get, like I put out polls and stuff. They get access to the chat in Discord, which I'm starting to use more to talk about stuff. I want to start asking about what I want to what people want me to focus on next as a video. Like I want to do a breakdown of industry, for example, as one for people. But yeah, so also you can support the channel by joining the Patreon and checking out some merch from the Spread Shop store. I really want to thank Danica for everything that she does, making the store happen, keeping me on track. If the quality of the show has increased, hey Anthony, thanks for that. If the quality of the show has increased in the last 2 months, you can pretty much blame Danica for it. So thank you for everything, and thank you to all of my sponsors, in particular my co-designers of Abyssus, Aiko Warazu Chan. If that's not how to pronounce her name, she has to tell me how to pronounce her name. Danica the Queen, Black Rose Noble, Dejat Lamont, Drake, Golden Age Stories, Jay Kuhn, LM1, Malik Starfire, Midnight Space Monkey, Not Just Fun, Seeds Aplenty, Serenolin with No Eyes, Ciliana Vilesh, Nephilim, Grendel, Zolnex, as well as Ebo, Leet, Rid, and all of my officers and directors and everything that makes things happen in the Convocation of Empyreans. If you want to come and join us and help maximize player engagement with EVE Online, please go ahead and consider joining the Convocation of Empyreans. We try to make the EVE better for everyone, while at the same time securing the southern half of the war zone for freedom and the Galente Federation. So, yeah. Other than that, if you haven't tried out EVE, or if you're coming back to EVE, one good news is that if you've never redeemed your millions free SP, you can now do it retroactively. So if you use that link, and let me actually double check to make sure that link works. Yes. If you use that link and sign up, you will get the million, and sign in rather with your account, you get that million SP. So if you've never received that buddy code, now you can just do it all you want. You can also do it to your own accounts or whatever, but you know, you can thank me for pointing this out to you by doing it through my link. Also, I make a game. You can check out Playton if you want. Let me know if you like it. It's a real-time puzzle game. If you want to come hang out with us on Final Fantasy XIV, I'm in the Wings group in the Goblin server Crystal Cluster. Trying to think if there's anything else. Is there anything else? Danica, is there anything else? Am I forgetting anything? I think that's it. So yeah, make sure to follow the stream or follow the YouTube, share around, because I hope to come out with more videos during this break. And keep an eye out because I've been using the community page as well as the Discord for putting out announcements above and beyond the Twitter page, the Twitter now. So if you want to keep track of what's going on, I recommend getting on the Discord and flagging yourself with YouTube in the roles channel, and of course checking out the YouTube channel as much as you can. So cool, yeah. And there is tons of old content. I was actually just going back through my old videos and realized like how many videos like people should watch today, but like it kind of gets mixed in with all of the other stuff. So we've been talking about how to clean that up to make it so that like people can find the good bits. All right, yeah. It has been a hell of a YC 124. I can't wait to see what happens in YC 125. But either way, I will be right here. All right, yeah. If only there was playlists. If only, yeah. I know. Well, I don't. Yeah. Okay. So. I'm really excited for next year. But either way, I will be here helping put Eve into context for you, my fellow Empyreans. Until next time, take care of each other. Have a wonderful holiday and break. And I can't wait to see you till next year. I have been Ashrathi, the voice of New Eden. And I'll see you in space.
Bring on the wrecking machine. For every city